From KCTS-FM Phoenix, this is Greenwood and Company. Hello everybody, I'm Jamison Greenwood, glad to be back with you this week for another show. You know, I got my start in broadcasting back when I was going to college in the Arizona High Country, and I started my first radio show, the Jazz Bookstore. I also used to hang around a lot in this place called Brew-Beck's Coffee Shop, and when I saw a drummer out on the street the other day while I was walking around in downtown Phoenix, it reminded me of a strange event where there was a drummer who couldn't quite keep track of her drumsticks, and there was also this really creepy flirt that was trying to get together with me. It was really kind of scary, but we'll talk more about that once we get on with the show. In the meantime, though, I wanted to share a poem that I once shared on the Jazz Bookstore. You know, jazz is one of my favorite genres of music, so I decided to make that the whole theme of my first show that I did. And I asked this question of this poem because it's really quite a complicated one. What is jazz? What is jazz, that improvised music that some people love and some hate? Those sounds so ubiquitous yet avant-garde, the music that causes debate. Is it the instruments, woodwinds and brass, piano or maybe the drums? Is it the organs, electrically charged, or gentle guitars being strummed? Is jazz the lyrics, the old and the new, that speak about romance and loss, or obscure ones that talk about rivers and leaves and natural things such as moss? Is it the clothing that's worn by musicians, the sunglasses, ties, and fedoras? Some say that their music is often ignored, but with these clothes they just can't ignore us. An unanswered question this DJ still has. I ask you, dear listeners, just what is jazz? Before we go any further, I need to remind you that support for Greenwood and Company and the Cactus, KCTS-FM Phoenix, comes from Bob's Bumpy Rides, now offering service from Phoenix to Portland, Oregon on buses with one guaranteed flat tire for fond memories of excitement and motion sickness. Need to barf? Come ride with Bob's. Additional funding is provided by the Folding Chair Charitable Trusts and the Save the Floppy Disks Foundation. Now, I think part of why I love jazz and chose to do a jazz show had to do with Brew-Beck's Coffee Shop, where my barista friends Colton and Heather worked and crafted my favorite beverage, coffee, and I enjoyed it along with the smooth sounds of the tenor saxophone played by the talented, beautiful Annabelle Thaxton, the girl of my dreams. Romance was a common guest at Brew-Beck's, but so were mishaps, like this time that Annabelle's friend Dana Cruz got carried away with her drumsticks. Beside his studies, work at Brew-Beck's, and involvement with the Episcopal Campus Ministry, Colton's other passion project was his membership with the HCU Forestry Club. The forestry majors and Sierra Club hopefuls spent their time organizing around environmental issues, and I joined them once at a protest outside the Pine Bow City Hall where they rallied against the proposed leveling of a reserve near the Blue Fez Lodge, so that British Petroleum could build a gas station. Soon after, the project was canceled so a plant nursery could be erected instead. During my involvement with the protest, I got to know a few of Colton's friends, including Trevor, who went to our church but whom I didn't know very well, and the president, a girl named Lacey, whose advocacy for the rights of photosynthetic organisms rivaled that of the staunchest hippie at Woodstock. However, one friend I met, whom I came to regret, was the VP for Public Relations, Lacey. Lacey was quite charming to look at, raven-haired and copper-skinned, plus her charismatic tone kept you interested in the environment and made you want to join her movement. However, my heart was set on one, Annabelle Thaxton, the girl from the church who played the saxophone at Brew-Beck's and in the Mateo Suarez Jazz Band. I was always civilized with Lacey, but Annabelle was my first choice. It could break Annabelle's heart if she even saw me with Lacey. I first met her at a meeting the day before the scheduled protest at City Hall when Colton and I walked up to sign in, and she took down our names. "You're Jamison!" Lacey exclaimed. Her eyes were wide, a little more interested in me than I desired. "He's the one who hosts the radio show," replied Colton. "Oh yeah, the Jazz Bookstore, every Saturday night." Few people outside my inner circle knew about my radio show. One of the advantages to being on college radio is no one listens to you, but one of the disadvantages is no one listens to you. It seemed nice to know that someone who I did not know personally was listening to my program, but something about Lacey was frightening. Colton had some business that he wanted to discuss with Lacey, which turned her attention away from me, and on the side of her table I noticed a black matte portfolio about 30 by 18 inches. "You got anything in the next art show?" Colton asked. Lacey nodded and whisked the portfolio onto the table, nearly pushing the sign-up sheet off in the process. In the plastic slots of each page were caricatures on 11 by 14 pieces of sketchbook paper. Famous jazz artists at their instruments or at the microphones. Louis Armstrong in a tuxedo with a cream-colored jacket, blowing into his trumpet. Nat King Cole at the keyboard of a grand piano, a black cigarette holder between his teeth, and Frank Sinatra crooning into a microphone against the background of orange, his favorite color. No wonder she's a fan of the jazz bookstore, I thought. When she showed us prints of these drawings that she was selling, I caved in and bought one of Nat King Cole. He'd been one of my favorites ever since I was a kid listening to my Grammy's records, but as I accepted the picture and she accepted my $20 bill, I got a revealing look at Lacey's smile. Her eyes were wide, and though on the surface she seemed to be saying, "Thanks for buying my drawing," passionate thoughts seemed to be brewing. "I'll kiss you tomorrow," at best, and "I'll rip your guts out and eat them tomorrow," at worst. During the protest, she became too involved to try flirting with me, and after the protest we went to Michael's, where I bought a cherry wood frame with a navy blue mat so as to hang Lacey's print of Nat King Cole. Looked very nice in its position above my desk between a photograph of Grammy, my sister Macy, and I, and another of St. Edward's Episcopal Church, but thoughts of the artist still triggered anxiety. That Thursday at Brew-Beck's, Annabelle was there with two of her friends from the HCU music department, a drummer, Dana Cruz, and Chris Lacroix, a classical piano exchange student from France. They were playing some old favorites like Mambo No. 8/5 and other Latin standards, but at the counter, Colton and Raymond had just come up with a new pumpkin latte. Since I normally like regular hot coffee, I wasn't impressed with it, but I was too afraid to tell them. After taking my first sip, I nodded a fib of politeness, then sat at a table where I could watch Annabelle, Chris, and Dana perform. Chris's fingers dancing across the keys of the walnut-stained piano, Dana Cruz tapping her sticks with an effortless sense of strategy, and Annabelle blowing the whole of her soul into her saxophone, as her beautiful sage-green eyes gleamed to the audible artistry flowing from the saxophone scepter with which she ruled her musical empire. Behind Annabelle, just above where Dana sat drumming, I noticed a new drawing of Frank Sinatra mounted to the wall, an artist's light shining over it. I couldn't place it, but its bright orange background looked familiar. "Hi, Jimmy!" a feminine voice screamed. Standing next to me was none other than an all-too-familiar face, Lacey, the creepy flirt from the forestry club. She'd done that painting. She looked at me with a wide, eager smile and burning eyes. The artist's identity returned, now that she was staring right at me. Well, I know the suspense is probably killing you, and the suspense is killing me too, but before we go any further, we have to take a short break. But when we come back, we will tell you what happened with Lacey and a whole lot more. You're listening to Greenwood and Company on KCTS. If you had chickenpox, the shingles virus is already inside you. 1 in 3 people will get shingles in their lifetime. Don't leave yourself unprotected. Ask your doctor about the new Hailstorm Shingles Prevention Vaccine. It's neither covered by insurance nor FDA approved, but it's guaranteed to destroy shingles like hailstorms destroy your roof. Hailstorm Shingles Prevention Vaccine is not for everyone, like people with liver disease and women who are nursing pregnant or may become pregnant. Simple blood tests will check for liver problems. Ask your doctor if the Hailstorm Shingles Prevention Vaccine is right for you, and if he says no, hold him hostage with threat of lethal force until he says yes. And welcome back. You are listening to Greenwood and Company on the Cactus, KCTS. Now, before the break, I was telling you about Lacey and how I had noticed her, so let's just get back to what happened after I found her unexpectedly staring right at me. With hesitation, I greeted Lacey, who took the other chair at the table where I sat. Raymond brought her one of those pumpkin lattes. "So you like pumpkin lattes, too?" my admirer assumed. Being too lost in pure shock to start conversation, I said, "Isn't that your drawing up on the wall?" It seemed my qualm, "I don't particularly care for pumpkin lattes," would have fallen on deaf ears. "Colton brings us here after forestry club meetings," Lacey said. "He told me all about the jazz folks that come to play here, and I showed him my art, and his manager bought it." A twitch of her eyes indicated she wanted me to say something, but I could only remain silent. "I'm sorry, Lacey," I finally said. "I'm just so focused on Annabelle." I felt some relief, but then feared revealing my crush. "And Chris, and Dana." That raised Lacey's eyebrows. She knew I must be fond of Annabelle and didn't like it. Straight up revealing my feelings for Annabelle was a horrible idea, considering that Annabelle did not even know. Realizing that I had little interest in her, Lacey backed off a bit, but she still made one desperate attempt to change my mind. "I don't like Annabelle." "Why?" I asked. "She's such a wonderful sax player." "Yeah, but she's such a bimbo." Nothing could be further from the truth. I remained silent, not wanting to cause a scene, but wanted to say, "How dare you?" Though the pumpkin latte may have increased my wrath, one other person who really enjoyed the new drink was Dana Cruz. She was on her second, and apparently ordered a third. I watched Annabelle as she improvised on A Nightingale Sang in Berkeley Square, picturing the two of us walking through London on a clear evening, hoping we might share a tight, passionate kiss on Berkeley Square. The romantic image was spoiled, however, as I gulped down another sip of that atrocious pumpkin latte. It may have been perfect to Dana Cruz, but by this point mine was just this side of being too cold. The pumpkin just did not seem right when mixed with the liquid gold of Arabica beans, and I was desperate to scrape the foam off the top with my spoon. Annabelle paused her saxophone and watched while Dana did some work on the drums and Chris LaCroix did some piano improvisation. Dana was doing some of these amazing percussion tricks, but she got so caught up that one of her sticks flipped out of her hand. It rose through the air, got caught in a ceiling fan blade, bounced onto my table, and knocked over my latte. Dana apologized, but I was okay with it because I didn't want to drink it anyway. Colton got me a new regular coffee, and Annabelle, Dana, and Chris picked up where they'd left off. Dana began to do some acrobatics again with the drums, but lost grip of her stick. It again hit the fan blade, ricocheted, and tore a hole in Lacey's drawing of Frank Sinatra hanging on the wall. While I suspected Lacey was broken when she learned about Annabelle, our previous exchange only cracked her. My feelings for Annabelle weren't enough to shatter Lacey. The torn drawing was enough to make her explode. "Stop this concert," Lacey demanded. "You stupid drummer, you—" Annabelle, Chris, and Dana silenced their instruments. "The likes of you musicians, I would think you'd have more consideration for your fellow artists. Colton!" Colton walked over to Lacey, who screamed, "You can suck this putrid pumpkin latte." She splashed what remained of the foaming fall beverage onto Colton's orange apron, with a small drop flying into his eye. "I just had that cornea replaced," Colton whisked his hand. After that, Lacey stepped up to the wall, retrieved her damaged painting, and told me goodbye for the last time. Once Lacey stormed out, I reassured Annabelle, Chris, and Dana that they were still doing excellent, and suggested to Colton we should turn off the ceiling fans. Annabelle, Chris, and Dana decided to continue on Nightingale Sang in Berkeley Square, and Dana started doing her drumming improv once more. But her drumstick flipped out of her hand, hit a stage light, and sparks flew. This blew a circuit, and all the lights went out throughout Brew-Beck's. It took us a long time to get an electrician to fix this, so Annabelle, Chris, and Dana performed in the dark. As a result of this, Dana agreed to duct tape the sticks to her hands so she would not whack us again. At the end of the night, all Dana could say was, "I knew I shouldn't have drunk those pumpkin lattes." You're listening to Greenwood and Company on KCTS. Maybe you're in the mood for popcorn, but you don't want to make the effort to ensure it's delicious. Maybe you have an old microwave you want to get rid of, but it seems irresponsible. That's where Prince & Popper microwave popcorn comes in. We don't want to know what the hyper-processed butter in the bag is really made of, but its formula is guaranteed to give your popcorn that old-fashioned stovetop taste, with as many unpopped kernels as possible. And the aluminum coating inside the bag will trigger dangerous electric sparks until that old microwave's downright unusable. It's two great benefits rolled into one. Why wait? Pick up a bag of Prince & Popper microwave popcorn today. Prince and Popper microwave popcorn may contain allergens along with asbestos and other carcinogenic chemicals. This product is known to cause athlete's foot in the state of Arizona. Do not store near heat source or flammable materials. Consult a physician with a revoked license prior to use. Prince and Popper microwave popcorn, available at Gigit supermarkets and other subpar retailers. Additional funding for KCTS The Cactus comes from the Society for Cats with Mathematics Test Anxiety, now having their annual T.S. Eliot Andrew Lloyd Webber honorary convention at Old Possum's Practical Hotel just off Broadway in New York City. Call their toll-free number for details. That again is the Society for Cats with Mathematics Test Anxiety. Now, before we go, I want to let you know that Dana is still a very talented drummer, even if she can't control her drumsticks. I want to really make sure that that is perfectly clear to all of you, and I don't mean to offend any of you listeners who like pumpkin lattes or caramel macchiatos or chocolate mocha margaritas, whatever those things are that you enjoy. But as you heard in that story, I'm really a purist when it comes to my coffee. That is one thing that I am very particular about. This next poem is not just for those who work at Brew-Beck's, but it's for everyone. The proper way to serve coffee. Brew a fresh pot when I place my order. If you can't do that, at least don't let the pot get cold. Don't try to serve me lukewarm coffee and tell me, I heated the cup. This will burn my hand and not my tongue, as it is supposed to. Don't foam the cream if I didn't ask you to. I'll scrape it off into the garbage like scum off the top of a stock pot if that's what it takes to convince you. Give me the cream capsules so I can ensure they aren't spoiled before I put them in. No one likes vomit coffee with curdled cream. Don't say, we don't have coffee, when you're too lazy to make it. I'll go somewhere else where they aren't. Please offer decaf. People with certain health conditions deserve to enjoy their coffee too. And please, don't even think about trying to serve me a peppermint mocha. Coffee was meant to be served in a ceramic cup with a piece of peppermint bark on a matching plate, while loafing in your pajamas on Christmas morning. These two were not designed to be lumped together in a hurry as you rush to get to the office holiday party, ever close to spilling it on the reindeer tie you just bought at Dillard's. When I say I want hot coffee with cream, bring me a plain and simple hot cup of coffee, 2 to 3 cream capsules, and something on the side to stir it with. Is that really too much to ask? That brings an end to this week's Greenwood & Company. Our show was created and hosted by yours truly and was written by him along with James Salison and Minnesota Martinez. The engineer is Ivan Crosby. Jonas Andrews answers the phones even though we don't take calls on this program. The theme was composed by Martin Landstrom, and our costumes are provided by Grandma's Garage Thrift Shop. All the characters, settings, and situations depicted in this program, along with all advertised products, are entirely fictional, and any similarities to products, events, or persons, living or dead, is entirely coincidental. Also, KCTS is not an actual radio station. Just a reminder to please be careful if you are going out on the 101, the 17, or Route 66 tonight. I'm Jamison Greenwood, and until we meet again, stay healthy, stay safe, and stay young at heart. Good night. This is KCTS FM Phoenix. Stay tuned for Lacking in Substance.